Hi, this is Ms. Vanoy, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to use the ToSEEC strategy when we are writing the body paragraphs of an essay for social studies or an on-demand prompt, or maybe just a letter we're going to actually mail to a congressman. But I'm talking about the structure, that skeletal structure of to make sure that you have found enough evidence and you wrote enough elaboration, this structure to write those body paragraphs, which are all the supporting details of your writing piece. It's everything that supports it. And this is the part that when teachers say to you, you need to write more, there needs to be more detail. This is the section that you'll want to be able to come back and think, okay, what strategies do I have to write more for my body paragraph? Now, again, I wanted to kind of have this visual representation of that you're building something. This is that fat, thick, like solid part in the middle. It's those big blocks in there, and you have to have those blocks to hold everything up. You have to have that to hold up the intro and the conclusion. So it's important that's the main meat of your writing piece. And I want to talk to you about all the different sections of it, how to make sure that you have written it fully and completely, sufficiently enough. All right, now, ToSEEC doesn't just work with short answer and ERQs. A lot of times that's how we practice it, but ToSEEC works really well with body paragraphs in our writing. Years ago, you might have heard of like 3.8 paragraphs or 2.6. We used to call something like that, where you had to count the sentences and you had a topic. It's the same sort of thing. It's just we call it ToSEEC, and we're using it for both short answer, ERQs, and for when you do like a formal writing piece. It's the same sort of thought topic. Or thought bubbles that you should have in your head, and you want to think about what's the subject or the topic, what's it about, and then how to answer that fully within your paragraphs. Now, here are some key words I'm going to talk about with you. Because I feel like I throw out a bunch of this vocabulary and it kind of gets confusing, especially because it's one of those things like is a square or rectangle, I don't know, that whole rule in math. Sometimes people use certain vocabulary interchangeably, and I'm trying to stick to a certain one way so that you understand. The thesis statement is that last sentence of your introduction. That's where you tell exactly what you're going to argue in your writing piece. It's the part where there's the claim plus the reasons that you're going to give. When you did your brainstorming, we brainstormed as many different ideas as we could, came up with a big idea, and those were our like reasons to support what our claim was. Those reasons are the supporting details, and you literally can trace those reasons to the topic sentence of each of your paragraphs, the body paragraphs. Again, disclaimer, I know this is not the only way to write a thesis statement. I know there's many different ways. There's more creative ways possibly to write that, or to write topic sentences, or to write your body paragraph. I'm giving you the skeletal structure of it. And this is for people who really felt like they really have a hard time even figuring out where to start. And this is also for people that even if you are a more advanced writer, this basic structure is still there. So you should still be able to go back to your writing and see, okay, I have a thesis statement. I do have a topic sentence for every paragraph. I do have evidence, and I do have elaboration. You will see this skeleton within your writing no matter what. Whether you use the same text frames as I do or not, you will see this. Topic sentence is that first sentence of each of your body paragraphs. It comes from the reasons that you listed in the thesis. Evidence are direct quotes, paraphrases, summarizing of the research that you found from the actual text that you went to get the information. Elaborations, when you connect that evidence in your own words to topic sentences and your overall thesis. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper on how to do evidence and elaboration on another video, but today I'm just going to start by talking about what that body paragraph looks like. You can look at it, let's see. Okay, now, again, this seems overwhelming, and I want you to take a deep breath at this point and think that it can get confusing. Students will say, I don't know, supporting details, they all sound the same to me, and I can understand that. That's why I want you to really try to hone in on these visuals and this color coding, because that really helps me out. Again, even though I'm a good writer, if it's something that I'm not motivated to write, or it's something that I don't feel comfortable writing, and that happens in school. I had to take science classes, and that's my least favorite subject, and I would have to fall back on these types of writing structures to make sure that I was writing enough or completely or to be able to get a good score on it. Um, I want you to think of this mental model. I refer back to it quite a bit. Here's that triangle. It starts out broadly with your hook, zeroes in introducing it, and then your thesis statement. And then the bottom is it's like the reflection of that intro. It's the conclusion. You restate the thesis, you connect with so what, and you do your concluding sentence. But today we're focusing in on how that meat of your article, the body paragraphs, it will come, everything from that little star is where that thesis statement is. The whole organization for your body paragraphs will go right back to that thesis statement. Notice again, I've got the topic sentence is your first supporting detail, your reasoning, and it's in green, evidence is in blue, and elaboration is in yellow. Now, every one of your topic sentences will be from the reasons in your thesis. It just goes into more detail in the body paragraphs. You'll start to realize that, and it'll be able to check you to make sure that you're not given weak reasoning. Like sometimes people want to in the introduction for their thesis statement want to give examples instead of overall big ideas. And if you start to find yourself having a hard time doing examples and elaboration, you maybe didn't have a big enough, broad enough idea to begin with. And that's another thing that's really good because it can check you in your writing when you're revising it and be able to help you before you get farther into the writing process and have to start all over again. Now, here is this mental model I want you to think about. You've got your solid reasons. Here's your claim is true because first reason, second reason, and third reason. This is like the last sentence of your introduction. This is your thesis statement. It's a general one. Since you have all that, then look, you got to dig in deeper and you got to break it down. See, first reason goes here, second reason is the next paragraph, and third reason is the next paragraph. If you have two really good reasons and your third reason's kind of, then stick to those two reasons. You need to have at least two. Three is ideal. You could even have more, four or so, or even if maybe the prompt even asks you for more. Maybe they ask you to write 4 reasons why you feel this way or that way. So you got to pay attention to that and adjust the skeletal framework of the mental model. Now, here it is with the arrows drawn, so just like I was trying to show you with my mouse. You've got your thesis statement, which is that star, the main point of your hook. Introduce the main point of that whole introduction. Got your first reason, evidence, elaboration, second reason, evidence, elaboration, and so on. You will follow this structure. It may seem kind of boring, but once you get into that flow, that's when you can start to kind of bend and break the rules and find some different transitions or different sentence structures or different sentence fluencies or make your sentences fluent in a different way. I didn't say that right, but you can start to add your own personal voice and touch. But I need to see that you can follow this structure first. Here is a graphic organizer. I've shown this in a foldable earlier on another video. This is the way I do it electronically. I make this table. I have the topic sentence first, then my evidence, and I always want to make sure that I remember to put the page number. Sometimes right here when I'm jotting down things as far as pre-writing, I will just quickly jot down the article that I got it from. One of the things about the standards in writing in middle school is they're going to ask you more to pull from different sources. You're not going to have just one piece of text to pull for research from. They're always going to give you at least 2, if not 3, 4, or 5. And then the prompt will usually say, I need to see evidence from at least 2 sources or at least 3 of the sources that you read. So you need to be able to keep in your mind as the writer, organize that to think, okay, I have a piece of evidence from at least 2 different sources because that's what the prompt asked me. And I have the page number so I can do those embedded citations so I can tell exactly where I got it from. All right, so again, back to that ICE strategy, you want to make sure that when you write it in sentence form that you introduce the source of evidence, that you cite that evidence, and then you elaborate on that evidence. That goes right in there to that ToSEEC, right when you first start introducing evidence elaboration. To dig a little bit deeper is when you get into ICE, to make sure that you are writing it in full sentence form where you're actually citing where you got your information. Now, here's an example writing prompt I'm going to use with you. This is what it would look like on a state test. Situation: after reading the articles, Dating in High School, the Pros and Cons, and Pros and Cons of Dating in High School, reflect on the good and bad parts of dating in high school. Decide whether you think teenagers should date in high school. I think I could have wrote a better prompt than that, but you get the idea. Write a 5-paragraph essay where you argue whether or not teenagers should date in high school. Make sure to include evidence from both articles. So I'm going to give you I gave you 2 articles in the prompt to read. The first thing you're going to do is actually read the prompts. You got to read the text. Go over that. Figure out what your idea is. Once you may have had a strong idea of whether you were going to say yes or no before you even started. When you're reading it, maybe your mind was focused on finding evidence to support your opinion, and that's okay. But you do need to go through and read that evidence, and you need to have evidence to pull from those texts, and you got to pull from both. So you got to pick a side. The question is whether do or do not. So I got to pick one side. Then I'm going to brainstorm as many different reasons why, after I read those articles, that I know that you should or you shouldn't date in high school. Then I'm going to organize those into 2 to 3 big ideas, and I'm going to write my thesis statement so I know the organization of my writing. Here is my thesis statement, which will be the last sentence of my introduction. I do not think that teenagers should date in high school because dating is too distracting and teens are not mature enough to date. So my 2 big ideas, my 2 reasons were because it's too distracting and because teens are not mature enough. So I have reason 1, too distracting. Reason 2, teens are not mature enough. This is going to be my first paragraph of the body, which is the second paragraph. This is going to be the third paragraph of the writing piece, but it's the second paragraph of the body. So I'm going to take that, the too distracting, put it into sentence form. It's the second paragraph, first body paragraph. Being in a relationship as a teenager can be too distracting. All right, so I used this graphic organizer again, the ToSEEC foldable. This is the electronic version. Dating is too distracting as a teenager in high school. I went through and just quickly jotted down exactly the evidence that I found, the page number, the article it came from. I actually went ahead and even wrote in sentence form the elaboration, or you can just kind of jot down your elaboration right here. This is just a pre-write, not required, but it helps focus your mind on what you are writing. And then to put it in paragraph form, this is exactly what a ToSEEC should look like. And look how nice and fat that looks. So you know that just by glancing at it, you've got some good details there. Now it's up to you to go through and make sure that it's organized in the right way and that you have completely answered part of the question, which is why you shouldn't date in high school. And you gave enough evidence from both sources. Being in a relationship as a teenager can be too distracting. That's my topic sentence. Everything after that should support it. In the article, Pros and Cons of High School Teen Relationships, Nape writes, and Nape is the author of that article. Sometimes it's important to include both the article name and the author. Nape states, high school teen relationships can be distracting, especially, according to David, if all they focus on is their partner. Now I've got to take that direct quote that came from page 3 and notice how I did I've already made a mistake. There should not be a period right there. The period's after this. I'm going to put my cursor over that. I'd turn it into elaboration in the yellow by saying this shows that when teens put all their focus on romance, they get distracted from grades, sports, and family. Now, sometimes people may think you're being redundant or repetitive, but it's really important for you to elaborate, to really put that in your own words. You don't want to just stick a quote up there and leave it dangling. You want to find direct evidence, and then you want to tie it back to what that topic sentence and then what your thesis actually says. Then again, I went again and I wrote in the blue is in the article, Dating in High School, the Pros and Cons, the author states. I just have that format in my mind. Yes, there's other ways that you could organize your sentence. You could put the quote first and the author, the introduction words last, but I'm just for the sake of my own sanity and for you all that need to know the skeleton structure first before you can start to bend the rules. You want to make sure you start with those introduction words and then you cite the evidence and then you make sure you give that the page number and then you go on to elaborate. I think I'm done. I hope this helps break down how the body paragraphs are organized, and hopes it makes it a little bit clearer for you. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper on exactly how to find examples and evidence. There's 4 types of evidence that you can find, and I'm going to dig in and show you how to do that. But for right now, I want you to make sure that you understand that skeleton structure of how you can use a ToSEEC in body paragraphs. Have a great day, and I'll be back with more writing videos soon.